folks, welcome back to Mr. P's Film Review again, and I'm here with another retro review to celebrate films that are turning 30 years old, and this time I'm going to be talking about Die Hard 2. Die Hard 2 was directed by Rennie Harlin and it sees Bruce Willis reprising his role as John McClane. This film also stars William Sadler, Dennis Franz, John Amos, Franco Nero, and also reprising their roles from the first film. Reginald VelJohnson as Al Powell, William Atherton as Thornburg, and Bonnie Bedelia as John's long-suffering wife Holly. Die Hard 2 takes its source material from a novel, 58 Minutes, written by Walter Wage, and in this film we see John, who is now a Los Angeles police detective, arriving at Dallas International Airport to pick up his wife Holly. But we then learn that an elite special forces unit, led by Colonel Stewart, actually taken control of the airport, hijacked all of the airport systems and are threatened to crash planes into the ground unless a drug dealer called Ramon Esperanza has been released. It is then up to John to leap into action to thwart the terrorist plans and to save the planes that are in the sky, including his wife's own plane, which is running out of fuel. Die Hard 1 set the standard for action films. 32 years after that film was released, it is still the gold standard in which other action films are measured against. It is a film that redefined a genre. It is a film that has spawned countless imitations. And it redefined narrative, the hostage scenario, and also the hero element. Because Bruce Willis was just a regular guy. He was a New York City cop in this unfortunate situation. And if you saw him aesthetically, he wasn't as muscular as his peers, say Arnie or Sly, but he still handled the situation with some great wisecracks and some great action sequences. And if you look at how things have changed 30 years after that film was released, budgets, the advancement in computer technology, the advancement in filming techniques, Die Hard still is the brass ring. It is still up there as the greatest action film ever made, and is a huge accomplishment for any filmmaker. So it was only inevitable that a sequel was to be released. Die Hard 2 loses a lot of the magic which made the first film so successful. Die Hard 2 is a more faster-paced action film, whereas with Die Hard was a slow burner. Die Hard was very, very claustrophobic. It was very, very taut. It was very, very suspenseful. And Die Hard 2 doesn't have any of these elements. It doesn't have the cat and mouse element that made the first film so exciting. It loses the human element, where we see the communication between Al, Reginald VelJohnson, and John. But with that being said, Die Hard 2 is driven by good action sequences and great set pieces. And whilst not as good as the first film, there's still a lot to keep you entertained in this film. And it is not as bad as critics and fans alike have said, but it is nowhere near as atrocious as A Good Day to Die Hard. Casting wise, I thought the cast was great. I thought Bruce Willis was great in this role. This is his most iconic role to date. And whilst he doesn't display the same level of vulnerability and fear as he did in the first film, he still carried the film. I did like the fact that they brought back some of the key players in this film. William Atherton and Bonnie Bedelia. We didn't get to see much interaction between these two. In fact, in the first film, the only interaction that Bonnie Bedelia's character had with William Atherton's character was when she broke his jaw. And I liked how there was banter between these two. And it made some really, really good acting moments in this film. One of my favourite characters, Reginald VelJohnson's character, Al Powell. He isn't in the film that much, but it was good to see him back in this role. The good, entertaining elements of this film was Dennis Franz as Carmine Lorenzo. He was very, very funny in this film, and the banter between him and McClane was epic. Dennis Franz, excellent actor. You know him from NYPD Blue. He was really, really funny in this film. And again, he took on the role that Paul Gleason's character took on in the first film, which was encouraging McClane to just stay away and let the professionals take over. Now, let's talk about the villain. Alan Rickman, may he rest in peace, set the bar so high, not just for villains in the Die Hard films, but also for villains in general. One of the most charismatic and most vicious characters that you've ever seen, Hans Gruber. He was almost like a villainous James Bond. He was dapper, he could handle weapons, he could be very, very charismatic, very, very funny, but if you messed with him, he'd blow your head off. And he set the bar so high, so anybody who would come after that would have his work cut out for them. William Sadler as Colonel Stewart, as physically menacing as he was and facially as menacing as he was, he did have his work cut out for them, and I didn't think that he was as menacing or as intimidating as Hans Gruber's character was, but he still made a good opponent for John McClane. But what I did notice in that Die Hard 2, some of the terrorists were unknown at that time, but did go on to become very, very famous. There's a young John Leguizamo in this film, who will go on to star in such hits as The Summer of Sam and Executive Decision. A young Von D. Curtis Hall, who's now an established director, having directed such hits as Gridlock with the late Tupac Shakur, Tim Roth and Thandie Newton. And there's even a very, very young and unknown Robert Patrick, who had one line of dialogue in this film as one of the terrorists in this film, but then will go on to become internationally known and gain worldwide fame when he would star in Terminator 2 and take on the role as T-1000. And then he'd have about 9 or 10 lines in the film. This film was directed by Rennie Harlin, because John McClane went on to direct The Hunt for Red October, and different directors will bring different things to a film. Rennie Harlin has given us a more faster paced action film with bigger set pieces, great action sequences, from the airport shootout to the Annex Skywalk shootout to the finale sequence with the Boeing 747 with the helicopter flying over it, which they actually did, and it was actually Bruce Willis that did that jump. And Rennie Harlin has established himself as a very, very talented and capable action film director, directing such classics as Cliffhanger. I reviewed Another 48 Hours, and my problem with Another 48 Hours is that the film followed beat for beat the first film. Die Hard 2 doesn't do that. It adds a little twist. And we learn that the terrorists that have been hired to take out Colonel Stewart's terrorists, led by Major Grant, played by John Amos, are actually in cahoots with Colonel Stewart. And we learn this because in the church shootout, we see the terrorists switch from the gun clips that are labelled red to ones that are labelled blue. And there is a heavy emphasis on the terrorists doing that. So much to the point that it becomes patronising, and so much to the point where, okay, what's going on here? And I personally feel that that scene could have been handled a whole lot better. The US Marshals, starring Tommy Lee Jones and Wesley Snipes, had the same type of element in that film, but it was only filmed better. In the opening sequence of that film, we see Robert Downey Jr.'s character carry a silver-plated Colt 45 pistol, which he starts shooting people with. We then see that it's Robert Downey Jr.'s character, actually one of the main villains in this film, and he shoots one of Tommy Lee Jones's men with the silver gun. But then later, the camera doesn't heavily emphasize on the fact that Robert Downey Jr.'s character has actually swapped from his silver gun to his Glock 7. Tommy Lee Jones has actually noticed that he's actually changed guns, and he then clicks onto the fact that is actually Robert Downey Jr.'s character who's the villain. And I felt that had they filmed it like that, not heavily emphasized on the fact that clips were switched and the ones with the blue clips actually had blanks in them to make the shootout look real, I felt that it would have been done a whole lot better. But Die Hard 2, 30 years on, still an entertaining watch. Doesn't have the class of the first film, doesn't have the human element or the cat and mouse element, but they did capture those elements again with Die Hard with a Vengeance. It is still a worthy installment in the Die Hard franchise. So I will give this film a very, very strong 8 out of 10. With a few yippee-ki-yay motherfuckers in that film, it is still a very good watch. So that's my review. So guys, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the alarm bell so you can get notifications from me when my videos are going to be uploaded. Leave your comment with what is your favourite Die Hard film thus far. Help this channel to grow because there will be more reviews coming in the future. And I shall see you on the next film review. Stay safe, guys. Take care.